together for Kathy Sierra.
I love you guys. I've never started a presentation with tears in my eyes, so this is really kind of awkwardly upbeat, but it is what I feel is most important. So, okay, imagine that you're at XOXO and someone says, "I'm writing a book," and imagine what you're thinking after they say that, and then imagine that the next thing they say is this. Great, now some of you are already getting a little bit squirmy, and so imagine what they're thinking, right? So, and then they go, "Oh no, Kickstarter, you're talking about Kickstarter." No, sales. Actually gonna sell the book to actual people. So, this, you're having a lot of cognitive dissonance, right? Because on one hand, we all celebrate the fact that, writers, artists, musicians, we all should be paid for what we do. But at the same time, it's kind of creepy to do this. I mean, who does that, right? So I did, because this is the backstory. So I'd been an independent developer and worked in little game companies, and I thought it would be really novel to work for like a big, giant tech company. I had never worked for anything that was a corporation, and a place where they don't have offices, they have campuses. It was like going to be so awesome. And look, when I came in, I mean, it was awesome. Stock options, if you just showed up and you had shoes on, you got stock options. And the stock market, so my employer in the stock market, right, they're on their way up, on the cover of all the magazines, and you all know what happened next. So the place that you do not want to be working during the dot-com crash is a place whose tagline is, "We are the dot and .com." Not one of my gazillion stock options ever vested, and neither did any of the employees' nothing. So anyway, I needed a job. I am probably as old as most of your parents. If you are trying to get a job as a programmer when you are competing against people who are half your age, and granted, I was not the most awesome programmer, I was very decent. And we needed regular income. I said we, because, oh yes, my husband, also a programmer, also same age, same problem. And we had 2 kids and a dog. So we said, well, how hard can it be? Well, I know we'll write a book about the thing that we know something about. I knew Java just so intimately. I'd been teaching it forever. I thought, I can do this. And we didn't know anything about books or writing or publishing. And we finally found a publisher, which was very difficult because so many publishers turned us down because they knew best that this book that wouldn't sell, that went on to sell over 1 million copies, but I'm not bitter. So finally O'Reilly said, oh, hell yes, we have nothing to lose. So we'll do it. And our editor said, after he, spit out his coffee, when I said, we need to do this to make regular income for a long time, he said, wow, you're gonna have to be in the top 2 or 3 selling books for this programming language. And we did get lucky because there's a huge group of people who unfortunately have to learn Java. And we were gonna make this. So we're like, okay, top 2 or 3, all right, that's okay. So, Java, shit, 27,000. And I'm like, oh no, Java means so many different things. Oh, Java programming, 16,000, shit. We have to be in the top 2 or 3, and he was right. And oh, by the way, no marketing budget, nobody knows you, you're nobody, you're not a writer, you can't do this. And the whole internet says, and it's mostly just luck. And we're like, no, we really, really knew, and we were accurate that our prospects for getting work, I mean, just a little tangent, a lot of people think, why didn't you used to talk about sexism in the tech industry? And it's like, because there's also ageism, and because people would stand on stages like this and actually say, this product is so easy, my mother can use it, and I would go, actually, I'm older than her mother. So it just wasn't going to happen. So we said, all right, but we can do this. We can shrink the role of luck. We're programmers. We'll solve this like a logic puzzle. It cannot just be luck. I mean, this is a technical book. It's a nonfiction. It can't just be luck. We're not writing the great American novel. So how did we do this, because the process that we followed, I know you're supposed to stand here and go, but don't do what I did, but I'm going to say, yes, do this, because this is just, this actually is a logical process, even though our implementation, well, in fact, our implementation was actually fairly crappy, and it still worked. That shows you something about the process. So spoiler alert, we did go on to sell, well, almost 2 million copies of our books. I'm probably one of the only people who has actually lived for the last 10 years on nothing but my royalties. And I'm also really lazy, so I've only written one book since then. So this is how we thought about it. So we thought, okay, imagine a mixing board, and all we have to do, because we were still really naive then, is just look at things that the competition is doing. What are they doing well? And then what are the things that they're not doing that we can actually really move the sliders up? So that's how we looked at it. And we said, wow, okay, yeah, there aren't 16,000 great Java books, but there are a ton of fabulous books. They already seem to be doing everything right, really well, and by really accomplished people, and people that people actually trust, unlike us. And so we thought, okay, how are we going to do that? We're not going to do it this way. We're not going to be able to ever compete by making these little incremental tweaks to what's already out there. And not with those kind of numbers that we were facing. If we had to be number 1 or 2, we're going to have to do something else. So we realized everyone's answering the same question. How do we make a better thing, whatever it is? And we thought, well, we can't answer that question because we can't make a better thing. They seem to be awesome. So we're going to answer a different question and hopefully find a better question, because this is what we needed to have happen. We didn't need to write the best book. We needed to write the book that made people go, I know Java. You should get this book because I learned Java. We need to be focusing on first-person language from the person who's actually reading this. There is no other hope for us. People have to act. It has to actually work. It can't just be great. People have to learn from it. Because otherwise it doesn't matter what they say about the book or how great the book is. They have to be able to talk about something meaningful for them. So we thought, here's a little way in. If everyone is chasing the how do I make this awesome thing, whatever it is, the book, the music, the product, the app, where the user is just, basking in the reflected glow of the awesome thing that you made, we would focus on making the actual user a little bit more awesome. And that seemed to be, shockingly, fairly uncontested space. So, you may have heard me talk about this before, don't make a better X, make a better user of X. But we lived and breathed that, because every day, you sit down with your blank piece of paper or whatever it is, it's so hard to resist thinking, how can I make this more awesome? When we needed to focus all of our energy on saying, that doesn't matter, it only matters what happens for that person. Now, a lot of people would say that's a semantic game. I mean, you make a quality product, that's how you make a better result for the user. But you get very different answers when you focus on those things independently. So we said, we just make tools. We're not important. We just make tools, and all that matters is what people are using it to do. The context. We're just a tool. Everything is about what the user wants to do. What is their context? What are they hoping for this? What's meaningful to them? And so the more we focused on, we're just making a tool, what can we do for the person? It started to give us better questions to answer, questions that didn't already have great answers. So what matters is the context in which our thing, whatever it is, plays a role. And you guys may have heard me talk about this before, because I've only been talking about it for 10 years. And this is the example I always give, because it's an easy one. If you think of a camera, right? This is the 5D Mark III. Some of you probably have this camera. This is a camera I have, which I paid dearly for. And I love that camera. And this is the slide that I will probably show for the rest of my life, because I think it says everything that's wrong with what we do. Before they get our thing, we understand the context, right? And again, this is deceptive, because what's important is not, oh, here you get color and good production values, and here you get that. Right? I mean, that does say something about what we value, marketing versus actual customer support. But anyway, what matters is that this is about the context. We understand that they want photography. They want to take amazing photos. They don't just want a camera. But as soon as they give us the money, we're just about the tool. Hey, it's not our, it's up to you, what you do. So we want to be better at the context, not the tool. So one of the things we started doing is saying, we're not content creators, we are context designers. And all of you are context designers. You're creating whatever it is that you do, or build, or make. You're creating a context in which something is going to happen for someone. They will be transformed in some way. And we thought, we're not designing the UX, we're designing for the post-UX UX. Because nothing matters except what happens when the person finishes interacting with our thing. Now what happens? Can they do more? Do they feel differently? Do they see things differently? Do they have another perspective? Who do they talk to? What do they have to show for it? That's what matters. So we thought, this is what we're going to focus on. That the user will actually get better. That's the fader that we're going to work on. But okay, how? I mean, how do we compete on that? Because nobody says we want our users to suck, except it really seems like a lot of people and companies do. But what can we do to make them better that isn't already happening? So that's where we had to go down the rabbit hole to find out. So we played this little game called What the Hell Happened? And I really urge you to try this about anything that you're actually thinking about making for people, is you start by making an assumption that people get this thing because they want something to happen. They are motivated. There's a reason they have this thing. They want it to do something for them, however tiny that thing is. But something stops them. Find out what is it that stops them. So we had to look at that and say, why are people not getting this result of, wow, I know Java, even though these books are great? And we found out that because people were getting stuck. They weren't finishing the books, and everyone just accepted that. Everyone said, nobody reads programming books all the way through. That's ridiculous. Who would do that? And we thought, well, how can they possibly learn if they don't actually keep reading it? It doesn't matter how great the book is. And so we realized that a lot of these things just didn't really matter if people don't keep going. So now we knew what it was that we would have to do. We could compete on forward flow, just getting people to keep going. That was now what we could focus on. And that gave us a very different set of things to work on. Now, we still didn't know how, because we had to find out, well, what is it that's happening? So if that's the sort of master fader, forward flow, what are those things that are stopping them? So we found out, and Google is just amazing, right? You can actually learn things. And you can go to online discussion forums and find out why people are having these experiences or not. And we found out that, well, in fact, there's a lot of research on this. People are struggling because they think that they're supposed to have remembered something from a previous page or a previous chapter or a previous section, so they keep going back. So they can't go forward if they're going backwards. So we said, okay, we'll look at that. The next thing we found out is that people are going backwards, or they're not going forward because they're just confused. And they don't think it's appropriate to keep going. If they're confused about this thing, how can they keep moving forward? So they keep going back thinking, I gotta really get this first. And then, so, okay, we knew we could deal with those. And then the third thing was just a little trivial, everything else in their life that's keeping them from being able to keep doing this. So we'll solve this. We'll solve all of those. So the first two were a little easier. So not moving forward, problem one. This is going to sound really trivial, but it actually is. It is this simple, that if the problem was that people weren't going forward because they didn't remember what had been said before, then just make that a non-issue. And so we said, okay, how can we do that? And unfortunately, we had editors that were like, your stuff is so weird, just do whatever you want. There's a real advantage to that. At some point, you just break them, and they go, fine, just do whatever you want. So we did a thought experiment where we said, and we do this to this day, and we do it with authors to this day, 10 years later, we say, imagine that, that you've written a book, and when the user turns the page, the previous page vaporizes. There is no going back. No one can ever turn back. It's not even an option. What would you do differently to make this work for them? If you knew they couldn't go back, or if it's a video, they can't, there is no rewind. It's just one time. It's like they're sitting in a theater watching a movie. What would you do? Well, those answers were fairly simple. We'll repeat stuff a lot. So that's part of what we did. But here's another one, confusion. Well, we thought we can't really reduce confusion that much because, first of all, we're not that much better at it, if at all, than what's already being done. Some of these topics that we're dealing with, they are confusing. They are very hard. They don't suddenly spring to life. It takes time. And people are going to be confused until things start to gel around chapter whatever. But you have to get them to stick with it until that point. So we came up with this really complicated way of dealing with that. It's complex, very difficult, but I think that we're all up to it. And it's based on this idea. They don't stop because they struggle. They stop because they don't know they're supposed to be struggling, that struggling is appropriate, that it's typical. So we just told them. So, page 1, you could just say, for example, yes, this is confusing, just stick with it. And sometimes that is literally all you have to do, because now they know, oh, it's typical, it's temporary, it's not just me, I'm not just the idiot. So that helped. And now we get to the easy one, the rest of their life. And this one applies to everything, not just what I make, but what you make. Everything is, okay, their real life. Because so many products are completely fabulous, right? For people who have nothing going on, absolutely nothing going on. This is their full-time job. Then the products are great. They're well built, they're well designed, easy, right? But here's what we do, right? And some of you, I know, I want to ask you to raise your hands, but I know some of you have worked in companies, or you do yourself, you believe in the idea of personas, right? You design who are our users, what do they really like? You give them names, and you understand how difficult their life is, and you write bullet points of everything they have to deal with. But then, we know that's who they are, but then we believe that the moment they touch the product, something changes. And yes, I do use the word users. I use it very consciously. I will always use it because it focuses us on the fact that we're making something for people that should be useful and usable, that they are using it for some context that has nothing to do with just appreciating our awesome thing. So we always use that. So if we're writing for readers, we don't call them readers. They're not just readers because we are not writers. We're creating a context and they are our users. So we know this is who they are before they touch our product, but now we act as if the moment they touch our product, they're this guy, right? It's just magic, right? Suddenly this is all they have in the world that's going on for them. Their life is perfect. And here they are purchasing, right? It's before, and look, while they're using the product, they enjoy moving, right? It's awesome. This is who we design things for, everything, right? Perfect kitten, perfect baby, right? Because we design for not real humans. But let me tell you, this guy, see his wife? She has a whole nother family. That baby, that's the baby. So the chances of this being your user are the same as this is the customer service guy waiting for your call. Right? They're waiting for your call. So that's not your user. This is your user who is so stressed. He's on a conference call, totally doesn't even know he forgot to put pants on. That's him while he's using it, not just before and after. But wow, this is your user. So these are the people, that's your user. So when we don't honor the fact that they are humans, we treat them like stock photo people or androids, and you know what that's like, because you've had lots of things treat you like a stock photo person or an android, right? An android, someone with a perfect eidetic memory, right? Most books are written that way. Or stock photo people with a perfect life in which that product would be perfect. So when we don't treat people like humans, they start to wonder, am I even really alive? So I started thinking about this idea of aliveness as one of my core values for me making things. It's can I help people feel more human, more alive? And what does aliveness even mean? Well, a lot of you are probably UX or UI designers, among other things, and so there are concepts and things that we do. I used to teach animation long ago to make things feel more vibrant and alive. Very little subtle things and also very big things. So this idea of having that as a value, aliveness, how are we making something that feels more alive and more importantly makes people feel more like they are actually alive? And what does that actually mean? Now, this is controversial because a lot of people say products shouldn't seem alive. That's creepy, the uncanny valley of apps, it's misleading. You know, that ATM machine really doesn't feel grateful for what you just did. So, but it doesn't matter, because we do anthropomorphize. That's what humans do. We anthropomorphize everything, especially pets. And you already know the answer to that. But so, and you just start looking, right? Let's ask Google what people actually think, right? Your car is trying to kill you. Your TV is trying to kill, like, everyone. My computer is trying to open everything. Even the word, think about the word trying, right? It's just trying. It is alive, right? So, we anthropomorphize everything. Now, these guys actually wrote a book long ago, and I actually love this book. I mean, it's old, it's silly, it's kind of outdated, and I still think it's a great book. And we used this. What they did is they just took sociology experiments, and instead of having one of the people be a human, they just replaced the human in the old experiment with some device and tried to see what would happen. And of course, they found things like, I know a lot of you are familiar with it, like if you had to evaluate how a computer program worked, and you did it on the computer in which you accessed that program, you were nicer than if you did it over here on a different computer, because you didn't want to hurt this one's feelings, right? And it's subconscious, but one of the things they came up with was really, I know it's an obvious one, but they tried to have some theories about why this is. They found out that people do pay more attention when you use conversational language. Now, we used to think, well, it's just a matter of, because not conversational language is maybe too complex or something, but even when they made very simple changes like, you know, using contractions, right, instead of the way androids talk, that people do pay attention. They think it's because your brain is subconsciously feeling like it's in a conversation, it's got to keep up its end. So those are the things we used. But these same guys are responsible, directly responsible for what led to Clippy. So it's not all useful advice. But just in case I don't want you to be wondering, your cat is trying to kill you. So we want experiences that help us become more alive, that feel more alive. Because our users, all of us, we're all on this hero's journey. So if we think of our users, our audience, as someone on their own hero's journey with whatever they're dealing with, who are we to them on that journey, right? This is who we want to be, or better, you know, the one with the horse. So this is who we want to be, right? We want to be the mentors, or maybe the allies and the sidekicks. That's a good role for us to play too, on their journey. We don't want to be these guys, right? Now we could be these guys, that might be okay. Now, as Mallory pointed out, so I had to put this in, because it was just, we're all going to die. So since that's true, but while we're still alive, we want to be thinking about where we're going to focus. Oh, let me go backwards. And we want to focus there, not over there. So I'm going to have you do a little interactive exercise, which again is just awkwardly festive after the last one that you just did. But I think we cannot have too much practice in this. So I'm going to ask you to do this one thing. It'll take 20 seconds. And then I just have 3 slides after that. So, but you can't leave, the doors are locked. So you have to do this. You're just gonna stand up and do 2 or 3 people around you. Again, you have to do this. And if you've ever been on a talk with me, you know I will wait. So you have to stand up and you just have to say to the other person, you are a badass, right? And then when they say that to you, you have to go, no, you're the badass. And just practice, right? And some of you, this is not gonna be easy. So go ahead, right now, 30 seconds, stand up, you're a badass. No, you're a badass. So are you. Okay, you can sit down now. You are all so badass. Okay, so. Okay. So, that was going to be the end, but we're supposed to say something personal, which is really hard for me to do. But I'm going to make an exception. So, okay. Some of you may know about this post I wrote on my own blog, Serious Pony, and then it went to Wired, why the trolls will always win. And shortly after I left Twitter, about a year ago, and by the way, Zoe Quinn is like the most badass of all. But anyway, so why the trolls will always win. So shortly after that, I wrote to Eric Meyer, and we were talking about it, and I said, there is only one event that happened that made me feel like there was still hope in the community. This was it. This was the thing. I was still on Twitter when that happened, and I thought, I'm going to hold on to that. So again, as I left, I said, I'm going to hold on to that because this gives me hope. And now I just sat through 2 days here with all of you and how you reacted to everything and what you're doing and what you care about. And now there are 2 reasons to have hope, because you've all made me feel more heroic. Thank you. Thank you. You guys are badass.
Thank you, Kathy.